the abuse cycle is set up with the erosion of the boundary between the cleric and the laity. Most laity, people involved at a parish level, are wonderful, good-hearted people that want to do and support the endeavors of the priest. Like me, they early on when I was on the parish finance council, you see this priest doing all these tasks and somewhat overwhelmed with the role they're playing, administering the parish and the sacraments and traveling and this, as one person told me that had left the church, this is the height of arrogance. That the function of the parish is dependent upon the cleric. Height of arrogance. The parish is not about the cleric. But the cleric erodes these boundaries. I'm explaining this in the sense that we have empathy for the priest. But the priest, in this case, in our case, manipulates that empathy to retain control. And so back to my model here, the way that the abuse continues. Well, when you have the clerical system, and we have a corporation of one at our diocese and the diocesan level, this non-profit corporation of one, that being the bishop, has ultimate say in all things. We as the parishioners have very little, if any, say. If there's a law broken, obviously we could bring in the civil authorities, and then the bishops tend to then respond. But this whole dynamic of erosion of boundary, erosion of rule, erosion of shared authority, it's such a problem that what happens is it drives people away in a very subtle way. You volunteer to be a part of just a functional thing like an advisory council, and you think you're there to participate in a meaningful way about finances or the school or the parish, or whatever your role, and you get you come with that intention. You put your heart into it. You endeavor to make conscientious and prayerful decisions. And the priest at times then can just take away that whole effort. Basically ignore your input. And then you don't want to participate anymore. I understand there needs to be controls. All institution has to have some form of oversight. But the oversight should not be the power of one. And it shouldn't be necessarily democratic. Somebody mentioned that to me the other day. It's not a democracy. And I'm not talking about a democracy. I'm talking about abuse. And more power concentrated in fewer hands leads to abuse. I'm talking about setting up lay oversight to counter this tendency to erode and victimize, erode rules, boundaries, and victimize people. If you do not empower, and that being the leader, the parish priest, the bishop, and then those around them, I would call some of them sycophants. They believe only in the bishop's power, the priestly power. If you don't empower those in your community, you're essentially denying the divinity within them. Think about that. Inhale that thought. Breathe it out. Denying the participation and not empowering your brethren is denying their divinity. This is the heresy I am calling attention to. And it starts very subtly, and so some might say, well, why are you interested in a financial thing like an audit? Some might think it's about money. But really, it's not about money. It's about the erosion of the empowerment of the members in the body of Christ. When you don't share the very document that they requested, or they being the finance council I'm referring to here, said we had a problem here, we have misspent funds, let's look at it. The bishop then looks at it and says, well, you know what, I'm not going to really show you what we found. That is a betrayal of the body of Christ. What I go up there and share in when I take communion. And the bishop's going to give, he could stack probably 500 reasons why he doesn't want to do that. But it doesn't answer this fundamental problem of how am I empowering these people? How am I responding to their needs? This happens to be a temporal need, a need of the, money. Our bishop's so out of it that he's got a $500,000 deficit on a diocesan level, and he doesn't know how to deal with it. But these financial problems are just an expression of the body having problems. When there's healthiness, you're going to find people want to contribute. They want to contribute with their finances, and they want to contribute with their body and spirit. And so this is a problem. So I am trying to call attention to the abuse, these pastoral abuses, because they are kind of the canary in the mine here. And underneath that canary in the mine are these people that have been abandoned. And we can have a healthy community. We can be attentive to each other. And it takes attention to these emotional states of your fellow believers. And I don't particularly think, I'm the first to raise my hand and say I was oblivious to this until I actually participated and was treated so poorly. And then I thought, well, if this has happened to me, who else has it happened to? As a matter of fact, it's happened to a lot of people. And then you go, well, this isn't what we were about, back to my previous video. And so we must start, it sounds so emphatical. The invitation here is to start to pay attention. Attention to the persons in our parishes, in our lives, that really are crying out or have And oftentimes this comes with some kind of a scandal. A scandal is just, isn't a scandal really a human emotional problem? You know, a divorce is a power struggle. All these things are they're the flares from the life raft here. And as one person said, well, you know, people leaving, that's a private choice they've made, and I tend to let them make that choice. And I think that is not Christian. It is antithetical to the communion we participate in. This is not about individual salvation, this endeavor we are on. It is all or none. And that sounds kind of crazy. All or none. What are we talking about? All or none. Well, if we're going to the promised land, we want everyone. Which leads me to the clerical. I often have showing some disdain and very credible criticism of the clergy because it's a power structure that's essentially broken. But I also think that the priests, in some ways, are victims as well. And what I mean by that is that I don't think anybody joins up the priesthood to be abusive. I don't think they ever join. I think they always join with the best intentions, like, I'm going to bring about the kingdom here. But the institution sets them up for survival, and the survival begets abuse. I mean, there's in the evangelical world, it's just as bad. They don't have an institution like the Catholic Church, but they have their own forms of power and abuse. And we saw that in the Baptist Church sexual abuse scandal last year or 2 years ago, whatever. This happens in the Cub Scouts and so forth. But these priests, this priest that we have, it wants to attract people, or it does attract people that want to do a good thing, but then it isolates them. And this is something I thought about years ago. I'm like, well, maybe we need to, regarding the priests, they seem isolated to me. And some people say, well, they need to be married. I mean, there's all these people that married women priests, on and on and on. And yes, I agree with all that, but it doesn't really answer the institutional problem, which is sharing authority and the isolation of these clerics. So they're victims, and I guess I don't like to just muddy the world and say we're all a big broken community huddled going forward. Yes, we are that, but we can do better. We can do better. And if we really believe in that goodness, well, we'll trust in it. We will trust to be brave and confront abuse wherever it is. Wherever it is. And right now it's often Roman collars and in laity enabling. And we must point it out, call it out, name it, and bring it into the light. And that's what I'm trying to do here. And I don't have I'm not perfect, but I really want others to join me in this. And I hope to make some more videos as I reflect on this. Because it's hard to repeat all this to other people. I've done it with some people, as I call them, and carry on about this. But it is imperative. It's the death of the soul for some, the loss of faith for many, and we need to be responsible.